They smiled at the funeral, but they were already counting the money. You ever see your own family treating a funeral like a business meeting? That's exactly what happened at my dad's funeral. While I stood by the casket, still trying to process the fact that the man who raised me was gone, my Aunt Karen and my cousins were huddled in the corner of the church basement whispering about his estate. Not memories, not love, just numbers. I'm Alyssa, I'm 34, and I live in Lexington, Kentucky. My dad, Paul Mason, was the rock of our family. After Mom passed when I was 16, he did everything. Worked overtime, cooked dinners, made every game, every recital. He was my world. He also ran a small but successful construction business, not flashy, but steady, and he was careful. He always said he had a will, and that everything would be handled when the time came. So when he passed after a sudden heart attack, I wasn't just grieving. I was clinging to the belief that at least he had made sure things would be fair, that I'd be taken care of. I should have known better. The first red flag came a week after the funeral. My cousin Troy, who hadn't visited Dad in years, suddenly texted me asking if I knew where the business papers were. No condolences, no how are you holding up, just, where's the paperwork? I brushed it off, trying not to spiral, but deep down something felt off. Aunt Karen, my dad's only sister, hosted a family meeting 2 weeks later. I wasn't invited. You read that right. I was not invited to the meeting about my own father's estate. I found out through a mutual friend, one of Dad's old employees, who said he saw them all gathering at Karen's house, sorting through files and keys like they already owned the place. I showed up anyway, knocked on the door. Karen opened it and gave me this tight smile that didn't touch her eyes. "We didn't want to burden you," she said. "Grief can cloud judgment." Burden me? I was his daughter, his only child. I looked past her shoulder and saw the others sitting around the dining table, sipping coffee, flipping through folders with my father's name on them. They looked up startled, like I was the intruder. And that's when I knew something was very, very wrong. They cut me out of the will, and smiled while doing it. Have you ever felt your stomach drop so fast it felt like you were falling, while still standing? That's exactly what happened when Karen looked me dead in the eye and said, "Paul made his wishes very clear. The will is already in probate." I blinked. What do you mean it's already in probate? When did that happen? I haven't seen a copy. Karen gave a little shrug, like she was annoyed I was even asking. Your father named me executor. The lawyer filed it the day after the funeral. I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened. And I'm not listed? She didn't even flinch. No, honey. Your father left everything to the family trust for the good of the legacy. You are always more independent. Independent? That was her excuse? I worked with Dad for years, helped him modernize the business, sat up late balancing his QuickBooks. I was the legacy, and now I was being erased from it. I walked out of that house shaking, angry, confused, hurt. And I kept thinking, this has to be a mistake. There's no way my father would do this to me. That night, I dug through every email I had from him, looked for any mention of his lawyer. I remembered he once said the name Rothman, some local estate attorney he trusted. The next morning, I drove straight to the law office. I didn't care if I needed an appointment. I sat in the lobby until someone saw me. Mr. Rothman finally agreed to speak with me. He looked nervous, honestly. "I'm sorry, Miss Mason," he said, "but everything went through your aunt. She filed the will herself. I wasn't involved. I haven't represented your father since 2018. That's when my dad had surgery and restructured the business with me as part owner." So what was this new will Karen was using? I asked if he still had the old one. He hesitated, then nodded. "Technically, I'm not supposed to release it, but if it was never revoked..." He made a copy and slid it across the desk. And there it was. My name. Listed, clearly. as the sole beneficiary of my dad's personal and business assets. My hands were shaking. What the hell was going on? Was the new will real? Or had Karen and the rest of them done something unforgivable? If this were your family, what would you do next? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more true stories like this one. The will they filed wasn't just wrong, it was dangerous. What do you do when you're holding proof your father wanted you to have everything and someone else is walking around pretending that never existed? That's the moment I knew this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was war. With the 2018 will in my hand, signed, notarized, and clean, I couldn't stop replaying the last few months of Dad's life. The way Karen suddenly became more present, showing up at the house, offering to help manage the books, talking him into taking more rest and handing over the paperwork. It made me sick. Back at home, I locked the copy of the will in a fireproof safe. I didn't trust anyone, not after I saw how they'd shut me out so easily. I started digging deeper. I pulled up the business bank statements. I still had login access because Dad never changed the passwords. And guess what? 2 weeks before he died, there were multiple large withdrawals labeled consulting fees. Thousands of dollars. Gone. All traced back to Karen's shell company. And my cousin Troy? He suddenly had a brand new truck sitting in his driveway. They weren't even being subtle. They thought I'd stay quiet, that I'd be too emotional or too scared to fight back. They forgot I'm my father's daughter. So I reached out to a probate attorney in Lexington, Rebecca Holmes, young, sharp, absolutely no tolerance for BS. I showed her both wills. She looked at me for a long moment and said, "You need to prepare yourself. If the second will was forged or signed under duress, this isn't just civil, it could turn criminal." That word hit me like a slap. Criminal. Because if that's true, they didn't just steal from me. They tampered with a dying man's wishes. Over the next few days, I kept my distance from the family. But Karen, she was acting like the queen of the castle. I started getting notices about changes in business ownership. She even called one of our top clients and tried to renegotiate the contract. She was erasing me in real time. But what she didn't know, I wasn't done collecting receipts. I showed up to the meeting with receipts and left them speechless. Have you ever walked into a room full of people who stole from you and watched their faces fall when they realized you weren't going to stay quiet? That's what happened when I walked into Karen's shareholders meeting with a folder full of proof. She had gathered the extended family at my dad's old office, now repainted and redecorated like she'd been running the place for years. My cousin Troy stood near the front, arms crossed like a wannabe bouncer. "Nice of you to join us," Karen said with that smug tone I'd learned to despise. I didn't say a word. I walked right past Troy, set the folder down on the table, and opened it slowly. Inside, a notarized copy of my father's original 2018 will, the one that named me as the sole heir. And then I added printouts of the shell company transfers, the bank records, even a photo of Troy's shiny new truck, with the caption, "Paid in full, 2 weeks before Dad died." The room went dead quiet. Karen's smile cracked. "You've been accessing private accounts," she said, reaching for the papers. I snatched them back. "Actually, no. My father never revoked my credentials, and this," I held up the will, "is legally binding. Rothman confirmed it's the last uncontested version." Troy muttered, "This doesn't prove anything." "Oh, it will," I said. "I've already filed a motion with the probate court. You'll be getting served." Karen lost her cool. "Your father was confused. He didn't know what he was doing near the end. That new will was drafted by a lawyer who never met him," I interrupted, "filed behind my back, and conveniently leaves out the one person he trusted the most." She flinched. I kept going. "The court's going to look at everything now, medical records, financial transactions, emails. Every shady thing you did after he got sick, it's coming out." They weren't smiling anymore. And I wasn't finished. Have you ever had to stand up to your own family for what's right? Comment below, like this video, and subscribe for more real-life family betrayal stories. Your voice matters here. She tried to ruin me, but I still had one thing left. What do people do when they know they're losing? They get dangerous. The very next morning after I confronted them, I found out Karen had frozen all business accounts. She'd filed an emergency injunction claiming I was mentally unstable and emotionally compromised after my father's death. That's how low she went. My own aunt stood in front of a judge and said I was not fit to manage anything my father left behind. She used my grief as a weapon, twisted it into incompetence. And worst of all, she had support. Troy and his brother backed her up in sworn statements. They said I'd been erratic and vindictive since the funeral, that I'd threatened them. I hadn't, not once. But in family court, perception is power, and Karen knew exactly how to twist the narrative. The judge didn't rule in her favor. Yet. But he did order a temporary hold on the estate while the investigation unfolded. Which meant I was shut out, again. No access to the business, no authority to manage the assets, no legal right to touch a single thing with my father's name on it. I went home and just sat in my kitchen, staring at the wall. Have you ever had a moment where you wonder if it's even worth it? When you feel like you've done everything right, told the truth, fought with your head held high, and still got knocked down? That was me. Until I remembered something. A week before Dad passed, we were sitting on the back porch. He was tired that day, quiet. But he looked at me and said something I hadn't thought much of until now. If anything happens, there's a backup plan. Don't let them bury you. At the time I thought he meant emotionally, spiritually. But now I realized maybe he meant something more literal. That night I tore through his home office, opening every drawer, checking every file, and, tucked behind an old stack of tax forms, I found a manila envelope with my name on it. Inside, a handwritten letter, a flash drive, and a copy of something that made my knees go weak. Video footage. My father on camera explaining why he changed his will in 2018, why he left everything to me, and why he no longer trusted Karen. He looked straight into the lens and said, "If you're seeing this, someone got greedy." And suddenly, I wasn't broken anymore. I was ready. He left me proof and I played it in court. What happens when the truth finally speaks louder than the lies? You watch everything they built on deception crumble fast. The following week, I walked into court with Rebecca, my attorney, and a copy of the flash drive in her hand. We had already submitted it into evidence and requested an emergency hearing. Karen was there too, still calm, still smug. She probably thought her restraining order stunt had rattled me for good. She had no idea what was coming. The judge called everyone to attention and gave Rebecca the floor. "Your Honor," she said, "we have a video statement made by Paul Mason, recorded 2 months before his passing. It speaks directly to his intentions for his estate." Karen tried to object, of course, claimed it was hearsay or manipulated, but the judge allowed it, citing its direct relevance and the fact that it was dated, time-stamped, and stored in a location only I could access. And then, the courtroom went still as the video played. There he was, my dad, sitting in his old flannel shirt on our back porch, calm, lucid, speaking clearly and intentionally. "If you're watching this," he said, "I'm probably gone. I want to be clear. My daughter Alyssa is the person I trust with my business, my property, and my legacy. I changed my will in 2018, and I never changed it again. If anyone presents another version, it's either forged or filed without my consent." He paused. "And Karen, if you're involved in this, shame on you." You could feel the room shift. Karen's face went white. Troy slumped in his seat. By the time the video ended, you could hear a pin drop. The judge leaned forward and said, "Well, that certainly complicates things." Complicate things? It changed everything. He immediately froze all activity on the estate, including Karen's access. Then he ordered a forensic audit of both wills, including signature verification and communication between Karen and the attorney who drafted the new one. It was the first time in weeks I felt like I could breathe. Would you have kept fighting or walked away when it got this dark? Let me know in the comments, and hit like and subscribe for more real-life betrayal stories like this one. They didn't just lie, they planned everything. You think you're prepared to hear the truth. But nothing prepares you for betrayal that was premeditated. 3 weeks after the video played in court, the forensic audit came back. Rebecca called me in and slid the report across her desk. "They didn't just fake your dad's will," she said. "They built an entire paper trail to back it up. Emails, draft revisions, phone logs, all traced back to a lawyer Karen hired. A man who was later disbarred for document tampering in a completely unrelated case. They knew the 2018 will existed. They just didn't care. Karen had emailed this lawyer with specific instructions. Make it look like Dad wanted the business passed down through the bloodline, but exclude Alyssa. She doesn't get what this family built." That email was dated 2 weeks before my dad died, while I was taking him to chemo appointments, managing payroll, and making him dinner every night. I wasn't just cut out. I was deliberately erased. They even backdated the new will and had a notary who later admitted under pressure that he never actually witnessed the signature, he just signed the stamp as a favor. It was fraud, every inch of it. The judge scheduled another hearing. This time it wasn't just probate, it was fraud and criminal conspiracy. And when we walked into that courtroom, Karen looked like a ghost. Troy didn't even make eye contact. Their lawyer tried to negotiate a settlement before the hearing started. They wanted to avoid escalation and resolve this quietly. I said no, because this wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about what my dad stood for, about the years I spent being told I was too emotional or not a real businesswoman because I didn't play their manipulative games. It was about how they tried to gaslight me into believing I didn't belong when I was the one who built half of it. That afternoon, the judge invalidated the forged will and reinstated the original. He also referred Karen and her co-conspirators for criminal investigation. And then, just like that, the power shifted. They lost everything they tried to steal, and I got it all. Ever walked back into a place where you were once shut out and felt completely, finally at peace? That was me, standing inside my dad's office again, keys in my hand, sunlight pouring through the window. The judge's ruling gave me full legal control of the estate, every asset, every business account, every property. But it wasn't about the material stuff, not really. It was about dignity, justice, and honoring the man who trusted me when no one else did. Karen? She's being investigated for fraud and conspiracy. Troy, too. I heard through the grapevine they're trying to sell off their vacation home to cover legal bills. The irony? It was bought using money they stole from my father. I didn't press for prison time. I let the court do its thing. But I did make one choice that surprised even me. I changed the name of the business. Not out of spite, but because I didn't want to carry forward a name they had tried to tarnish. I rebranded it under my dad's initials and started fresh. With new contracts, new employees, and a new mission: integrity first. And as for the rest of the family? Silence. No apologies, no phone calls, no "we were wrong." But that's okay. I've learned that some people would rather go down bitter than admit they were wrong about you. I used to think winning meant getting revenge. But honestly, winning was walking through that storm, losing everything, and still coming out stronger. I moved into a small house just outside Lexington. Not the big family estate, but it's mine. Peaceful, quiet, and every corner of it feels like freedom. My dad's old flannel is still hanging in the closet. Sometimes I put it on when I'm working late and smile, because I know he'd be proud. If you've ever been underestimated, betrayed, or pushed aside by the people who were supposed to love you most, this story is for you. Drop a comment if you've ever had to fight for what was already yours. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around for more true stories just like this. Because sometimes they get greedy. But if you stay smart, strong, and grounded, you get everything.